Hey, what's up, guys? Here on the Fire Sports Pod, where everything we got is hot. I'm your host, Zach Jackson. We got our co-host here, Justin, and we got a special guest here. Welcome all, Neil Schwartz, to the podcast. Appreciate him jumping on. So I'm gonna have him introduce himself after we go over a couple things, and then we'll get right into the show, guys. We're powered by StreamYard, where StreamYard makes the dream yard go. And this is season 8, episode number 28 on the Fire Sports Pod. Welcoming Neil Schwartz to the podcast. Neil, take it away.
Zack and Justin, thanks for having me on the Fire Sports Pod. I'm, always excited to come on a podcast, especially one that's growing and, and talking about my favorite subject, which of course is sports. As you know, I am in the data side of sports. I've been on the data side of sports for about 25 years. I am focused, however, on the business side for data. I'm not involved with on-field performance and things like that. I mean, I couldn't tell you, who the best 5 guys to put out there at the end of a basketball game are, or what play to run at the end of a football game that's going to most likely get you that 2-point conversion that you're going to need in order to win a game. That is not me. But, if you're looking to grow revenue as a team, if you're looking to sell more season tickets, if you're looking to sell more licensed merch, if you're looking to increase your fan engagement, my company, SBRnet, provides data focused on sports fans. Every year, we do a large consumer study in first quarter. Last year, we did it in January. We do it in January every year. We interviewed over 7,000 sports fans. And within that interview, we get over 70 separate data points. So we get everything from their favorite teams across 23 different sports to, whether they prefer McDonald's over Panera Bread, or whether they prefer, Celsius over Gatorade. So we really get very deep into preferences and behaviors of sports fans so that teams, leagues, brands, advertisers, and even college and universities can use that data to help grow their business.
Gotcha. Well, again, that's awesome stuff. We're going to get into our questions that we have for Neil here, and then that's going to kind of just go into our discussion about some things that are happening around sports. So, Justin, your questions are first. I'm going to have you rock first with that NBA question with Adam Silver.
So I was doing some research today, and apparently Rachel Nichols talked to Adam Silver, and he had a quote, and she asked him about the rising cost to watch NBA games, and he replied by saying, "There's a bunch of games that will go on free broadcast TV, and that fans can also consume the ways and other ways besides watching games," noting that the NBA is a highlight league. How do you feel about what Adam Silver had to say?
Well, I think in some ways what Adam Silver said is a little bit, in some ways, of what I would like to call a self-fulfilling prophecy. If all he thinks is that the NBA is a highlight league, then guess what? You could watch all the games you want on YouTube after the game's over, and guess what? You don't need to go, don't need to stream, don't need to do any of those things. So I think in some ways he's kind of, he put the thumb on the scale a little bit. Look, the NBA, you can't argue of their success. They've done a great job, especially in growing their media. But where they've really had their biggest growth has been in streaming media. While all sports are using streaming media completely different than they've used traditional. When I say traditional, I mean cable TV, satellite, the way your parents watch TV. The way I watch TV. Look, you're a younger generation, Gen Z. You guys probably, let me ask you a question, Zach. When's the last time you watched a game on cable or via satellite or traditional TV?
I actually do it all the time.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm
How
not.
about you, Justin?
We have cable, but my mom uses the cable. I just use the streaming services to watch the games.
And there you go. I mean, what's happening is, Zach, you're a little bit of an anomaly. You're not quite, you're not quite on the trend with your generation. But look, this is what's going on, though. Fans are, diverting their attention to streaming. We've seen some interesting streaming experiments work really well, in particular for the National Football League. they've done some things and really made it work well for them. But I do think that, Justin, what you said about what Adam Silver said about the NBA being a highlight league. Well, if you're a highlight league, do you really need to watch the whole game? I don't know.
I wouldn't think so.
I don't even need to go to the game at that point.
Well, look, game attendance has been an interesting topic. And in fact, it's one that I'm doing a report on right now. What we're looking to see is what are those habits and behaviors that are driving attendance? Because attendance, while, there's still good attendance for many sports, it has slowed. The growth has slowed. Why? There's a couple obvious reasons. One is cost. Costs a lot of money to go to a live sporting event.
Yeah.
I mean, I love hockey. I am a season ticket holder of the Florida Panthers.
Congrats
but
on
I
that
can tell you,
championship.
it's not cheap. It's a fairly substantial investment. You go to the game, you start buying food. God forbid you go to the team store to buy a jersey.
Oh, God.
You better be ready to sign a big number off on your credit card. But this is the world we're living in, and what's happening is that more and more people, are trying to say, hey, do I go to the game, spend $600, $800 if I'm taking, let's say, my kids, or do I stay home? You know what? I can eat all I want from my house. I can buy a jersey off of Fanatics. My kids can be all suited up, and guess what? We're enjoying our experience together, but just not paying the money for the tickets, parking, the exorbitant prices for food. So, I think that, a lot of sports need to really focus on what's going on with their live attendance.
No, I definitely agree with that. Based on the fact that, obviously we know the NBA is having a problem with that. But again, like you said, tickets though, like back then you were able to go to a game, and I don't know. Yeah, because back when I was growing up, I went to maybe one basketball game.
Right.
But again, I know the tickets weren't as bad as they were now. Like it's crazy. Even back seats, like nosebleeds, are like $400. So again, I think if you want to see a little bit more engagement in person than online, then maybe you got to work. But again, it's all about money. And
what scares me though about the NBA and things like that, and also other sports, is that if they decide to go and do what the MLS, what FIFA just did, and build their demand model. So, all of a sudden, the team's charging more when LeBron James comes into town. Or
they already do that.
That to me is a scary proposition for sports fans, because you know what? In a lot of ways, what you're doing is, I hate to say it, you're making, those teams, those games, inaccessible for the average sports fan, and they stay home and watch.
I also feel like it also depends on your team. Like I grew up a Knicks fan, and my mom grew up a Knicks fan, and she always complained. But we went to multiple Knicks games, but the Knicks tickets have just always been expensive.
Well,
like just in general, I think it depends on the team, who they're playing. Because I noticed certain games, like if Steph is coming to the Garden, that game is, whoo. Whereas if they're playing a team like the Kings or the Wizards, it's typically cheaper.
Justin, do you follow along, just out of curiosity, with any of the secondary ticket services like, Vivid Seats or, Seat Guru or any of the other?
Like SeatGeek?
What's that? Like SeatGeek? Yeah, like SeatGeek. Do you ever look? Do you ever notice? Just like you said though, when Steph Curry's coming to town and LeBron's coming to town, or somebody that people want to see, what happens in the secondary ticket marketplace? Because the secondary ticket marketplace is a great place to learn about what happens in the primary ticket marketplace.
Gotcha. Okay, so that was interesting. Now we're going to move on to Justin's second question. Justin, I'll let you go. Take it away.
How are younger audiences, especially Gen Z, reshaping the sports marketing landscape in your opinion?
I will tell you that sports has a Gen Z problem. I will tell you that again. Sports has a Gen Z problem. Now, are there exceptions? You bet there are. And I'll give you a perfect example right here. You guys probably are a little bit younger, remember this, but they call the Dallas Cowboys. You know what they call them?
America's team.
You got it. They call it America's team.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? That is a kind of a, they name themselves that themselves. Well, guess what? This year, when we ran our annual fan study, what happened? All of a sudden, the Dallas Cowboys are no longer America's team. It's the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yep. I saw that.
Why do we think that is?
Because
Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift.
Ding. Exactly right. What has happened is that the Kansas City Chiefs, now, did they orchestrate this? No. Did this just happen organically? Yes. But what's happened is that this situation, they have been able to grow, one, their female viewers and female fans by a large percent. I want to say around 23% increase year over year.
Wow.
But their biggest single increase has been in Gen Z fans. So what they've been able to do is they have leveraged the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift situation pretty darn well. And, but why couldn't other teams, try to, find maybe a specific influencer that they could use in order to grow their fan base a bit? They're not the only, she's really, she's a unique and special situation. I'm not a huge Taylor Swift fan, but I have a bundle of respect for A, her talent, B, her marketing savvy, C, the type of person that she is, and really everything about her. Look, she's an unusual situation. And she's a millennial.
Mm-hmm.
So she's right, a little older than you guys. So it's somebody that, you can relate to. But there's other people that you guys as Gen Zs relate to.
There was one for the Eagles. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
He was a huge influencer. And then there's that girl for the Chargers. I forget her name, but she's like a big super fan of the Chargers. Like a lot of people know them because of her.
But you forgot her name. See, everybody, if I say Kansas City, if I walk down the street and I told people, hey, the Kansas City Chiefs have more fans than Dallas Cowboys, why do you think that is? What answer do you think I'm going to get 9 times out of 10?
Taylor Swift.
You bet.
And I guess for the Giants license plate guy, I guess him, because he's a huge fan.
But say that again?
Have you heard of the man license plate guy?
No, not at all.
Oh, he's like another super fan.
It's not just a super fan, Justin. Okay? It's somebody who is a fan that is outside of the circle. Do you know what I mean? Like, for instance, now I'm not saying this should happen, but, when the Kardashians were at the peak of their popularity, unfortunately, they are not any longer at the peak of their popularity. If a team would have been able to kind of glom on to the Kardashians, guess what? They probably would have been able to grow their fan base, in some degree. I'm not saying they're the only ones by any means. There's a number of influencers out there. There's a number of people, but it's not just an influencer, Justin. It's somebody outside of the circle. Yeah. Somebody who can bring in new, and I use this word a lot, new incremental fans, not just the same people, not just, appealing, to the same fans you've always appealed to, but bringing in new people. By the way, there's a number of sports that really need to latch onto that strategy.
Yeah.
Not just the NBA.
You're bringing in, like you said, you're bringing in new people. But like last year, there was like little girls showing, again, not saying that little girls don't like football, but we all know that they know Taylor Swift's up there. Like that's the whole thing. You should have saw like the seats that are like they're in the box, and then the seats that are right below it. All the little girls are right there looking for Taylor Swift. So like you bring, like you said, a new audience, a new thing, and they might not even know what the hell is happening in the game.
Oh, they definitely don't.
Yeah,
they definitely don't. They are not.
Up,
no, they wouldn't know pass interference from offsides. But that's not the point. A good example is my wife and I remember during the playoffs, and I want to say maybe last year, maybe even the year before, but we're sitting in a restaurant in Delray. I live in Florida, by the way, in Boca Raton. And we're sitting in a restaurant, and a little girl, she must have been 4 years old. Couldn't have been any older than 5. What's she wearing? She's wearing a Kansas City Chiefs jersey. There wasn't anybody's name on it, but here's a 4-year-old girl, and I turned around and I said, "Hey, why are you wearing that Kansas City Chiefs?" Taylor Swift. Again, she didn't know offsides from pass interference. But guess what? She brought people from outside the circle inside the circle. That's how you grow.
And that's the key.
Yeah. And it's got even bigger than that. You have people being Travis and Taylor for Halloween, and like
I know
Party City selling costumes.
I know.
Stuff.
Really nuts.
Hey, look, she's a very special woman. My friend has a sister who's a doctor down at Miami Children's Hospital, the Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital down here in Miami. Mm-hmm. During the Stanley Cup playoffs last year, Taylor was down in Florida with Travis while he was doing he was training with a number of other tight ends. So they rented a house down here in Florida for, I think, like 2 months or something like that. She went to Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital and literally spent time shaking hands and meeting 300 people. She was there for 4 hours. Jeez. Did not complain once. Did not say, "I've got to go" once. Did not deny anybody a picture, a selfie, nothing. That's what keeps, that's going to keep that little 4-year-old girl engaged when she becomes 5 and 6 and 10.
Yeah, no, definitely. Justin, your final question to close it off.
And my last question is, what's one misconception teams have about their fan base that the data you've gotten often disproves?
Wow. Wow.
Way to go, Justin. Yeah.
You might have stumped that may have been the question that stumped me.
Oh,
that may be a first, Justin. It's definitely a first in 2025 for sure. But it may be, what's the biggest misconception? You know what I think it is? I think the biggest misconception is that teams that don't win think their fans don't care, but they do care. And they want to see their teams win. I mean, you don't think the fans of the Jacksonville Jaguars want to see their teams win? The Arizona Cardinals, see their teams win. I mean, these teams aren't growing their fan base, aren't growing, anywhere near as fast as some of the other teams. And in fact, some of those teams, like the New York Jets, here's an interesting one. New York Jets, they play to a packed MetLife Stadium every week, even when the weather sucks. But their fans have actually, the number of fans or number of people who root for the Jets have actually gone down from 23 to 24. I think that, sometimes teams don't recognize how engaged and how emotional this fandom thing really is. I mean, I know I'm a Dolphin fan, man. When the Dolphins lost, I was bummed out Sunday. I mean, I went to breakfast with a friend. I missed the first quarter. When I was driving home, it was already like 17-0. I was like, I'm not even going to watch the rest of the game. And I think it's
and it ended 33-8. Not to rub it in, but it ended 33-8.
I know it did.
Touchdown.
I don't know if I watched 1 minute of the game live. In fact, I don't think I did. I went out for blueberry pancakes instead.
Yeah, that sounds a little bit better.
They were much better than the game.
Tua throws 4 picks or whatever the hell he threw. 3 picks. And a fumble. So 4 turnovers in one game. That's great.
Tua turned the ball over.
Guy who is paid the amount he's paid and all the talk about this, that.
Look, and I think the one thing that fans also don't realize necessarily, if you haven't played the game, you don't realize the wear and tear that football takes on your body. I mean, I played football when I was in like middle school or junior high school. And, I was like a scrub. I mean, I was a scrub. I got like a crappy helmet. I was a scrub. But you know what? The times that I did play, the rare times that I did play, you know what? Football is a tough game. Football is a tough sport. And the biggest thing that I would say, and I was talking about this Monday night with a friend, the thing that disturbs me the most about football, but in sports in general, and I brought it up in the context of the spitting situation. It seems like athletes don't respect one another, the way they may be used to.
Yeah.
People say, hey, how could you maybe cut down the number of head injuries? Guess what? Make the players wear leather helmets again. And guess what? You won't see as many head injuries because these guys won't be using their heads to tackle people or to spear or they won't put their head down, to tackle. They'll keep their head up,
I never thought about that. The leather helmets going back. Obviously, them not going.
They're never.
But they're never going to go. But that's what the example is. But it's not going to happen. Like
you watch a player sometimes. When they look, and I know that the league has rules and they've got the targeting rules and all that. But you look sometimes, and you can see these players duck their head, or drop their head down because they want to use the crown of their helmet, to knock these guys out of the game or worse, injure somebody.
No, definitely.
I think fans aren't as tuned into a lot of that as maybe they should be. And maybe they shouldn't be. Maybe that's not my responsibility. Maybe all I give a crap about is, did you win or did you lose?
Yeah. And to be honest, I think we have to get back to understanding that it's just a game. And I'm passionate. Justin's passionate. We're all passionate, but we also have to understand it's still a game. Like I remember at Philly, I don't know if it was real, but there was a lot of comments. There's a lot of things on it. But after the Philadelphia Dallas Cowboys game, there was an 11-year-old that was wearing a Dallas Cowboys jersey. Who her father was there. Father was wearing it, and somebody stabbed her and killed her.
Oh my God.
Believe I could get fact checked, whatever, but I believe that was a true story. That after the game, that was the case. But again, we're legitimately killing people over games and whatever. Like children are getting whatever. Like I just don't understand. And then we can even go to the Jalen Carter Dak thing. Like that's disrespectful.
That to me was hard. And how about it happened at the University of Florida and at Central Florida game? I mean, college kids are doing. All of a sudden, it's become like cool to spit on another player. It's not cool in my mind.
That would start a brawl.
In general.
That would start a brawl. Back then, that would start a brawl. It's not whatever. Or that would be whatever. That's worse than kind of getting punched. Like that's just a real disrespectful way to do it.
Have we forgotten about the pandemic already and how certain exchanging of certain body fluids could you know what I mean?
I guess you did because obviously the guys that are doing it just don't care. But again, I just think we need to go, and it's never going to happen. But I think sports 10 years ago, in the 2016, 2015, the early 2010s. That was where peak sports was. I think we could see that now going back. I think that's where peak, well, at least for my age.
I'm a lot older than you guys, and I've been rooting for teams for a long time. I mean, look, I rooted for the Philadelphia Eagles before rooting for the Philadelphia Eagles was cool. Now being an Eagles fan is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But, I was a Phillies fan for a lot of, I was the year they were like 5 games in front or 10 games in front. And they lost the last 10 games in a row, whatever it was, and they didn't make the play. I mean, I've been a fan and I've been sat through and dealt with a lot of, let's say, misery over the years. But, but I enjoy it. I enjoy it. Look, I tell this to college. I speak to students all over the country. And when I talk to them about using data and how to use data effectively and all that, I ask everybody a question. How many of you, when I'm talking to you and talking to this class, want to work in sports? Inevitably, 5, 6, 10 kids will raise their hand. I'll, of course, being the smart guy, I'll say, you over there in the blue hoodie, why do you want to work in sports? And they start to give me a song and a dance. I'm like, you know what? There's a 3-word answer to that question. 3 words. Sports are fun. And you need to remember that sports are fun. When guys are spitting on other people, that ain't fun. And that's when it's not fun anymore. You know,
no, it's not. And as a person who coaches basketball, I tell my players all the time, if you're not having fun and you don't want to have fun with a team, then go play an individual sport like tennis,
do something else,
and do it yourself. Because the only thing you got to blame and you got to look to is yourself.
I agree.
When you're on a team and you're being disrespectful and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, that's an effect. If you don't want to have that effect, then you only have to worry about yourself. You can talk bad about yourself. But as soon as it gets to that disrespectful, especially as young kids, like we do this, like example, one of my players doesn't have the best shot, shoots a ball, misses pretty badly. Two of my players start laughing. Okay, that we don't have
Not
that.
cool.
And I check that immediately, and that's
Not
like,
cool.
yo, we gotta be. We're a team here. If you don't want to be a team, have your parents get your money back, and go somewhere else where you think that that's okay, or you can go play a different sport. But I'm not gonna have that, so we're gonna check. But again, there's
But
not.
you're right. You're right, Justin. I mean, you're right, Zach. I'm sorry. You're right.
Yeah, you're good. And there's not a lot of people out there that will be willing to say those things, because we're just in that world now. It's just like, whatever. It
You're
is
right.
what it is.
You're right.
It's sad. It's quite sad.
It is, because sports are supposed to be fun.
Exactly.
You
And
know, fun.
We've
Have
lost.
some freaking fun.
We've lost.
You know,
big time.
I mean, people get on my case a lot of times. I'll be watching a game and I'll be somewhere. I'll be in a restaurant. I'll be out in public. Maybe I'll be wearing a jersey from the team I'm rooting for. Maybe I'm not. But, you know, I'll see a good play happen. And, you know, look, I've been known to jump up and cheer maybe and all that. And, you know, people have looked at me like an old lady would look at me. And I'm like, you know,
It's fun.
It's fun. I'm having fun. Do you remember what fun is like? I'm having fun.
Justin, how many times have we said that same thing where we're looking at people? It's like, yo, people just don't have fun.
My wife thinks I'm crazy, by the way.
So I'm going to move to more of a broader thing.
That's fine. That's cool.
I'm going to ask to the question of just, I want to get your thoughts on just, why did you choose sports for your career? Was there like a specific reason for it? Obviously, you said sports are fun, blah, this, that, and the other.
Yeah, you know, it's an interesting question. Yeah. You know, I've been in the research business for 30 years. So I've been doing all sorts of different research for different companies, different products. Out of school, I went to work for Comcast, you know, the big cable company, and I latched on to research. And I latched on to research because I always felt that I was marketing by kind of by education, by, you know, and all that. And I always felt that if you make a decision closer to the end consumer, the end customer, it's a better decision. So that created a foundation for me in terms of where I wanted to kind of take my career. But a number of years ago, when I moved down here to Florida, I actually answered an ad, honest to God, on monster.com about a company called SportScan that collected point of sales data for the sports business. And once I started there, I've been hooked ever since. I love the sports because there's so many aspects to it. You know, there's teams, there's leagues, there's players associations, there's brands. I mean, I've worked with some of the leading brands in this industry: Under Armour, Adidas, you know, Rawlings, Wilson, you know, brands that you know about, On Running. You know, I've been involved in a number of these companies at a high level. Also retail. You know, I've watched the retail world change. I mean, you know, we've gone from a large number of big box retail stores really only to one in the sports world, and that's Dick's Sporting Goods.
Yeah.
And
all gone.
You know, I've just found that, you know, there was just so many avenues and so many different places where you can really apply what you know. You don't have to stay in one area. And in fact, I tell that to students, by the way. Just because you maybe get a job in sales doesn't mean you need to stay in sales. Just because you get a job with a retailer doesn't mean you need to stay there. But, you know, sports are fun. Sports are fun, you know?
Yeah. And it also gets your foot in the door. Like you said, like as long as you just get your foot in the door in something that has sports, people are going to see you. Eventually people are going to ask questions, and then you'll be able to get what you want in due time. It just takes patience and the right mindset.
It does. And I think also, you know, one of the things you talked about, and, you know, Justin actually brought it up in his question was, you know, your generation, and even a little bit of the millennials ahead of you presented some challenges in terms of getting what you want and how to get what you want. There's been a little bit of sense of entitlement, and I don't want to necessarily throw, that word at you guys because I think you're doing some interesting things here, but you got to work for what you want and you got to love it. And let me tell you, every morning when I wake up and I come sit at my desk, I love what I do. I mean, 2-3 hours could go by in the morning and I will realize I haven't had my breakfast or I haven't had a cup of coffee or the only thing I've realized is I did go to the bathroom. But, again, you have to love what you do.
Yeah.
And I love talking about sports. And I love being involved with people that talk about sports. And I have some great sports stories too. I have a bunch of friends that are runners and they participate in those Spartan races. Have you heard of that?
Yes. I used to watch the Spartan races on TV when they were on.
So I'm sitting there having a beer with a guy that's participating in a Spartan race. And he tells me that before he participates in the race, he has to sign a disclaimer, a waiver that if he dies during the race, that the race promoters are not responsible. I must have laughed for about 10 minutes when I heard that. And again, that's a part of sports people don't even think about. But yeah, I thought that was the funniest thing I had ever heard. I'm like, dude, you're going to do a sport intentionally when you could die? Is that what you want to, what's
no one has anything on you.
He's like, well, likelihood's probably low and all that. I'm like, dude.
There's a likelihood.
It could happen.
Exactly. Anything could happen. So my final one is going to be more about what's happening. Obviously, we know MLB, baseball is coming to an end. I think it's like 15, 12 more games left in the season, something around.
No, we're at September today, September the 11th. I think it usually goes to around the October 1st. I mean, these seasons seem to go later and later.
Yeah, I know. It feels like we usually start like end of September, but again, it just keeps going on.
They're going to be playing baseball in December.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. But my thing is I want to get your thoughts on who do you have or who do you think has the best chance to win the World Series?
I love the Dodgers, I have to say. I love the Dodgers. It's great. They have great pitching, great hitting, and those are really the two things, it's a game that, I hate to say it, is one up the middle and, great pitching, great hitting, shortstop, center fielder. They've got great players. Look, and have they gotten there? Have they bought their way to the top? The answer is yes, but they were allowed to. I mean, I give them a lot of credit. They used the system as it was designed. They did not go outside the lines. They are not doing anything that's illegal.
Yep.
I think the Mets could have been interesting. Still could.
As a Mets fan, I don't know.
I don't either. I don't understand why the Mets didn't do better this year. They seem to have a lot of good talent. I think they had a lot of injuries.
The only injury they had was Vientos this year, and then they traded for Cedric Mullins at the deadline. I thought that would help with their fielding, especially since he was good for Baltimore, but it hasn't really done anything. I don't know. And he lost his bat since he's been a Met. There's been a lot of outside of Pete Alonso, it hasn't really been a lot of good batting.
It's funny too. I mean, in every sport now, teams make trades or acquisitions right at, let's say, the trading deadline, right before the playoffs or something like that. And I don't have the data to support this, to be honest, but I wonder in how many cases those players that are acquired at the trade deadline or right before the playoffs or whatever they're allowed to do actually make a difference, in terms of, helping a team get to the next level. I mean, look, I'm a Florida Panthers fan. There's no question the Florida Panthers, they acquired Brad Marchand and Seth Jones at the end of the, right at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
And those two guys made a huge difference. They helped the Panthers win the Stanley Cup again. So there's no question about it. But how many times do they bring a guy, they trade for a guy or they acquire a guy and he just doesn't get them over the top? I don't know the answer to that. Seems like it happens more times than not, though.
No, without a doubt.
It happens a lot in baseball, though. My bad for cutting you off.
No, you're good.
No,
I just feel like it happens a lot in baseball. I notice it tends to work out typically in football, basketball, and even hockey.
Well, football is a little different because of the way things are set up, with practice squads and the way they use the injured reserve list and the way things are done. Football's a little different than the other sports in general. But it's just interesting to me, the rent to play. I mean, look, I'll tell you, one league that does it incredibly, in some cases well, is the English Premier League in soccer.
Oh, yeah, they do it fantastic.
Champions League too. They do the whole rent-a-player thing.
Yeah, it's crazy how they do it and how
I don't disagree with that, by the way.
It's very interesting on how they do it and very interesting on how they're able to succeed with it. It is that's an interesting thing. And I like soccer, not a big soccer guy. That's one thing I want to get into a little bit more in sports. But yeah, it is interesting on how they're able to do it and pull it off.
Look, soccer's doing really well here in the United States, but it's not doing as well as people might want you to believe. It's doing well. Hard stop. But it's not like gangbusters. It was doing really well. I mean, when Messi first came, 2 years ago, things were really unbelievable. In fact, I interviewed somebody who works in customer service for the Inter Miami team right after Messi joined them. I said, let me ask you a question. What was it like the Monday morning you walked in and you found out Messi was now part of Inter Miami? What was it like? And he told me the phones were ringing off the hook. We couldn't, we had to get more phones. I had to get more people. I had to do this. I had to do, look, obviously that was a very unique situation, but, soccer has been a sport that has used the rent-a-player situation pretty well.
Yeah. Now the last thing for me, and probably for the podcast, I just wanted to ask, I know you said the Dodgers, but is there a dark horse team that you're like, because I know you said the Mets, but right
Phillies.
now, Phillies.
I think the Phillies.
I was going to say the Phillies.
I watched the Phillies the other night. Look, I grew up in Philadelphia, so I was a Philly fan. I have to admit, though, since I've been here in Florida, I moved here in 1982. 82? No, 92. Got the years wrong. I've tried to shift my alliances. I'm a guy that likes to root for the home team. That's why I'm a Dolphin fan. That's why I'm a Heat fan, Panther fan. I'm Marlins. I root for the home team. I just feel like I just feel obligated. But I don't give up my legacy.
Yeah,
I will always still be an Eagles fan. If I watch the Eagles, I'll watch them on TV, especially if they're beating up on the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants or the Washington Commanders.
I'm a Cowboys fan, so that one hurt.
I'm a Giants fan.
I can't help any of you. My DNA's been already carved with hate for the Dallas Cowboys, the New York Giants, and the Washington Commanders. We grow up hating on those three teams.
Yep.
No question about it. But I think the Phillies are the dark horse.
Yeah, I would say
a couple of really fun players.
They do.
Yeah, and I think they've injected some emotion, some fun into the game, and I think that's a good thing.
It's the name of the game. It's fun. Fun's got to be the thing. I mean,
that's what I say.
You gotta have fun. Even if you're professional making millions, because there's so many kids that look up to you in those situations where if you look like you have a pissed face and you're like pissed off and whatever, and then you go do that, like it just doesn't come off correctly, especially as a professional. And really at any level it doesn't, but as a professional, especially as a professional, you should want to have a face that is like, okay, I'm having fun. There's a lot of guys.
I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to be cashing these big ass checks.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know why you're upset. You're making millions of dollars here.
I'm happy to be here, and I'm cashing a big ass check.
Yeah.
So what could be bad?
I agree. Justin, you have anything else for our special guest, Neil?
I just want to thank you for coming on, Neil, and even taking the time to find us and
that was
even communicate with us. I look forward to possibly having you back on the show again.
You bet. Yeah. Hey, also, follow SBRnet on social media. We're on Instagram at SBRnet Data. We're on Twitter, although I don't even know what Twitter and X is anymore. We're definitely on LinkedIn also. I mean, it's a great business tool. Again, at SBRnet. There's a lot of really good things. We also run an amazing event every year. It's called Get in the Game. It's designed to help students of color get into the sports business, with internships and jobs and skills and really helping them acquire the things that they need in order to get a job in sports. And I also have my own podcast called My First Job in Sports. So, I'm really dedicated to, the sports business. Obviously, providing data, but also helping the next generation of students and people get jobs in the business of sports. So Justin, Zach, as two members of the next generation, I want to thank you for having me on today.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. I appreciate it. Like Justin said, I appreciate you coming on, taking your time. Because again, you could have been like, "Hey, I only got 20 minutes. You go over."
I give everybody. No. That's not the way, Neil. That's not the way I roll.
And,
all right, guys. You have a great afternoon.
No, you too as well. Thank you, guys.
You're very welcome.
All right, guys, that is pretty much it for the podcast here on the Fire Sports Pod. Neil Schwartz just going off. I'm your host, Jack Jackson, our co-host, Justin, here at Sport on the Fire Sports Pod, powered by StreamYard, where StreamYard makes the dream yard go. That is a wrap for Season 8, Episode number 28 on this Friday afternoon. See you guys all for Recap Monday, Season 8, Episode number 29. Peace.